So I arrived at the sanctuary July 20th of 2021 and stayed through the end of the month of August. Well, at the time, the primary area of concern was substance abuse. I had fallen hard into cannabis as a substitution for my alcohol and drinking addiction and could tell that turning point, having been through, many times over the years since my late teens. I could see the signs were coming, that additional support and guidance were necessary. And through the process of looking for a treatment facility, I stumble on information pointing to this place called the Sanctuary. And that's ultimately what brought me here. Once I got here, I found out I was here for a lot more than that. Through the initial work, and again, having been through multiple treatment programs and really looking at it as alcohol was the problem. And within the first couple of weeks here at Sanctuary, I realized it was the symptom of the problem and probably the most obvious at the time, the behaviors, the things that it brought to my life. But working with the staff here, working with other clients that were here at the time, I very quickly became to realize there was something more there, something older, something that was there before I even started drinking. And just through that care and awareness, it brought up this pattern in my life of things happening and how I would respond, or in the case of alcohol, how I would avoid dealing with what was there. And it really kind of shifted the focus from the alcohol to why did I drink in the first place? And when I wasn't drinking, why would I turn to another substance or another behavior? And it was just that constant, slow progression backwards to what really started all this in the first place. Some of the most helpful points that stick out through my stay at the Sanctuary, the first, most obvious from the moment I arrived, and what really intrigued me is that so many members of the staff had such similar histories, similar stories, could personally relate to what I'd been through. They were different than doctors and other practitioners I met over the year that understood that there was this part of me, but can they relate to what I've been to? Have they been there? And very quickly realized that this environment was supportive because they know what it's like. The practitioners here, so many members of staff, have they themselves been in some of those dark places I was in and could say, yes, I see you and I get it. And I really believed them. And what that allowed me to do was this almost instant trust and rapport. I didn't feel like just saying what I knew I had to say to get through the treatment and get home and maybe be sober for a little bit, but cycle pick back up. It really was hey, they've been there and I see what that's done for them and wanted that for myself. I think that was probably one of the first. And then there's just the grounds of the Sanctuary itself. It's nothing like anywhere I've ever been. It's beautiful and quiet, and there's so many resources and tools that I had no idea were even available. Again, having been through other treatment, I'm familiar with things like 12 steps and what modern psychology would say about my addictions. And it's not that those things were wrong, but when I arrived at Sanctuary, there's this whole other toolbox I didn't even know existed that pointed to just other things and ways to get deeper and find out what's really going on with me. Why does this keep happening in my life? Why does this keep taking over and causing the unfortunate results it did over and over and over? And even right up to when I arrived at Sanctuary, on the verge of another failing marriage, on the verge of being sick again, and ultimately kind of hopeless because I'd been here. Did I really believe when I arrived, would this help? I was unsure. But what really stuck out was the sense that, yeah, I can do this. This can work. And these people up here that are so passionate about it can help me. So it really was a unique program. So right after the Sanctuary was also amazing because right out of the gate, and unlike other programs I'd been to, I was assigned somebody that I'd become familiar with during my stay here. And he and I would have weekly check-in calls. Hey, how's it going? Are you struggling to use these tools? And then outside of that, and over the 2 years since almost 2 years since I've left Sanctuary, other programs came online, giving opportunity to come back and revisit other aspects that were so easy to kind of go by the wayside, the nutrition, you know, the actual counseling support, but then also like spiritual support and things that kind of really identified with here, but are difficult to find where I live in the Midwest, you know, and just this constant stream of always available tools and knowing that I can take them and still use them and still be supported, you know, as, you know, stays with other treatment facilities go, maybe they would link you up with a psychiatrist. And that was kind of it. Go to AA, which had benefit, but for me, it wasn't enough, you know, and to have that continuity of personal connection with staff and caregivers and somebody always willing to offer up resources or new ideas if I feel like I'm stumbling, you know, and it's such a blessing to have over the last 2 years. Hey, have you considered this tool? Or have you tried this yet? And that constant, wonderful reinforcement really, really made the difference for me. A very recent new crisis in my life since leaving Sanctuary was the death of my husband, who he himself had also been a client here. It's so difficult to wonder, and I can only wonder at how this process would be going. Did I not have these tools? Did I not have the support? I know my patterns, and I know what me prior to 2 years ago would probably have done. If the least of it would have been substances, the worst of it, giving up. And every day I'm reminded through, you know, the gift of the tools that I was giving that I can do this, that I have support, that there are ways to stay connected to him, to have hope for the days ahead, to work through grief, you know, the timing of just his passing. And of course, one of the alumni retreats being available was just fantastic because it really just sustains me and gives me an opportunity, you know, to bring voice to just how much hurt there is and lack of understanding. And at the same time, knowing I'm fully supported. And it was actually through Sanctuary where, you know, one of the bigger patterns in me was I can deal with this myself. I don't need to reach out. I don't need to ask for help. And, you know, just from my initial stay through the continuing work I did, just going into the process of his passing was so different. And that I was immediately reaching out, hey, I'm going to need support. And several of those individuals are people I met through Sanctuary. And then I've got the other clients I was here with, and several of us have stayed in touch through the years, and they get it. And knowing that I have those personal contacts and tools, I think I can safely say I'm not sure I would be making it any other way than what I carried from here and continue to use to this day to just navigate this new life ahead that I didn't even see coming. If I had to offer up just a piece of advice to anybody who's considering coming to Sanctuary, who's unsure, who may see things in videos that are pique interest, but what is that? Because there were certain things, you know, you see the presence of just certain things here on campus that are so out of the box, I didn't know they existed till I got here. Stick with that curiosity. Be open to the idea that there is some different ways. There's so many different ways that the Sanctuary offers so many more tools than any other program I've been in. And those were the tools I needed. You know, so if somebody's on the fence or unsure, I really, really encourage them to take that step, make that call. You're doing it for yourself and doing it for the people we love. And it really can change life if you show up just willing to be open and do the work.